are these people?
First story of tonight. So, as you can see from the graph and the title, and probably if you're here, you know what we're going to cover tonight, but I'm sure you're not going to hear this on mainstream media or frankly, probably anywhere else in independent media, is the Palestinian life expectancy dropped precipitously, as you can see on that chart.
Precipitously. What a lovely word to describe something so horrible.
Yes. But I think it's appropriate given this massive drop. And actually, Reef, I might have you I might give you a link to read just for context later. So I'll send that to you in Discord if I feel like it or if it as the spirit leads. But I do think it's important to kind of talk about
you.
I do think it is important to talk about this story, especially in light of the last 24 hours where people are up in arms about Trump doing this. Trump is ethnic cleansing. Trump is doing this. Well, this life expectancy drop didn't happen under Trump. So if you really want to kind of so if you really want to go in, you should really go in on the former president and vice president for being in their complicity in said genocide that allowed this drop to happen. What do we mean by that? So this article is from Consortium News by Vijay Prashad, who writes, Palestinians who have lost at least 11 and a half years of their lives as a result of this horror deserve much more than this threadbare ceasefire. They will continue their struggle to get it. So he continues. The idea of a ceasefire is as old as the idea of war. In old records, one reads of halts in firing for humans to eat or sleep. Rules of combat developed out of an understanding that both sides had to rest or refresh themselves. Sometimes this understanding included the lives of animals. So that's essentially what ceasefire is, which no one necessarily talks about. It's the idea, it's literally that. Rest up, recuperate, eat.
Like the Christmas
self-care
truce,
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the idea is that it was going to start up again at some point. See, and this is kind of that's the whole idea of a ceasefire. So the idea that people are calling for a ceasefire as like the all end all, I think, was ridiculous, even among like pro-Palestinian circle. Like it just became like a talking point that once again Democrats kind of co-opted. Well, I don't think they needed to co-opt that in this case. They just took it and
to me, I was
never
okay with it because it requires Palestinian resistance to put down the only things that are like stopping them from from defending themselves. You know,
right? But then, more importantly, and I said this before, the idea of a ceasefire is that there are two somewhat equal forces going at it.
Yep.
This is not equal by any means.
No, that's
so
asking
you have
a fish in the barrel to stand down. You know?
You have an occupying force, Israel, targeting an occupied territories, which is Gaza and the West Bank. So it's not. This is not like as if this is like the U.S. versus Russia, for example. Like, so even with that, it doesn't necessarily fit given war standards, which So, so sharing that with you all just to give you guys an understanding. But anyway, during the Easter Rising in 1916, for instance, the Irish rebels and the British troops stopped their shooting around St. Stephen's Green in Dublin so that James Carney, the park keeper, could enter and feed the ducks. It was this cessure, I guess that's how you say it in Latin, or pause of gunfire that popularized the term ceasefire. For Palestinians in Gaza, any ceasefire that promises to stop the bombardment and allow for the arrival of humanitarian aid, particularly food, water, medicine, and blankets, is relief, which, again, they have not been getting. And again, it did not start with Biden. I mean, it did start with, well, not to say it started with him, but like he prolonged it. So didn't start with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
In the days since January 19th, when a temporary ceasefire went into effect, aid at scale has been able to reach Gazians, United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs spokesperson Jens Larkey confirmed. On the first day of the ceasefire, 630 trucks entering Gaza, many more than the 50 to 100 trucks per day that struggled to get in during this Israeli bombing. These trucks are getting food in, opening bakeries, getting healthcare, restocking hospitals, whatever left of them, repairing water networks, repairing shelter, family reunifications, and carrying out other essential work, Larkey said. Almost after 500 days of genocidal violence, this aid is more than a relief. It is a lifeline. But the ceasefire agreement has been labeled in May 2024 when it was approved by the Israeli government and later agreed to by Hamas until ultimately being rejected by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The guns could have been silenced then. Again, under Trump. Sorry, no, under Biden.
You'll get it.
I mean,
Same difference.
I mean, it's this extension without a difference. So here's this chart again, so you can see if you zoom in, Reef, a little bit.
Yes, sir.
You can see, if you go up, 2005, it was going up until I'll say probably just around 2013, 2014. There was a drop. Then there was the increase again.
Yeah.
Up until just before 2020. Then there was a dip. Then it went up again, and then up until last year, and then you see that deep drop there.
Yeah.
So using estimates from the United Nations World Population Prospects 2024, can you zoom in please a little bit?
Yes, sir.
Tricontinental Institute for Social Research and Global South Insights analyzed the decline in Palestinian life expectancy caused by the Israeli bombardment in Gaza and found that Palestinian life expectancy at birth fell by 11.5 years between 2022 and 2023, from a respectable 76.7 years in 2022 to just 65.2 years in 2023. It was the first 3 months of the US-backed Israeli bombing from October to December 2023, again, who was president then, that brought this terrible decline in total life expectancy. We are not aware of such a rapid decline in life expectancy at any other point of modern human history. A Palestinian life is now more than 17 years shorter than an Israeli one. This gap is greater than which existed between blacks and whites in apartheid South Africa, which was 15 years in 1980. So just to give you some perspective, during apartheid, had a similar drop, but this drop, I think, especially given within a year and change,
within the time frame,
larger, right, and a lot faster than the apartheid in South Africa. 11 and a half years lost per Palestinian. That is almost 60 million years lost for the remaining 5.2 million Palestinians who have remained in Palestine and survived the genocide. This loss cannot easily be recovered. It will take years of immense work to rebuild Palestinian society and reach anything near the pre-genocidal life expectancy. Health systems will need to be rebuilt, not only hospitals and clinics, which were almost all destroyed in Gaza, but new doctors and nurses will have to be trained to replace those who were killed. Food systems will need to be recovered, not only bakeries, but fields will need to be detoxified and fishing boats repaired. Housing will need to be rebuilt to replace the 92% of homes in Gaza that were destroyed or damaged, what the UN has called a domicide. Schools will need to be rebuilt. The mental trauma that afflicts children will need to be healed so that they can feel these structures are not graves, but places of safety and learning. The data is messy. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been killed in the carnage, including at least 14,500 children. Between October 2023 and October 2024, over 90% of Gaza's population has been displaced, with individuals displaced an average of 6 times and some up to 19 times, according to a report produced by the Danish Refugee Council, the Agricultural Development Association, and the Women's Affairs Center. Furthermore, the report states Palestinians have faced forced displacement orders with inadequate warning and have struggled to survive as the designated safe zones have been subjected to bombardment and lack basic resources. The neurological problems faced by survivors are extreme. There's ongoing concern for the mental health of everyone in Gaza, particularly for children who are so deeply traumatized. Nabal Farash of the Palestine Red Crescent Society said, pointing out that there are at least 17,000 children unaccompanied or separated from their parents.
Which I don't know how any of these numbers could be accurate because of just the logistics.
No.
You know?
And for what I saw today, I should have put it in, but
yeah, it
I
went
forgot
up.
who said it. But they're saying that now the death toll is up to, I don't know the exact number, but between 60 and 70,000.
Yeah.
Which now they're including people in the rubble who are deemed missing, are now dead. You know, and I'm sure that number is going to go up even more. And I'm sure that's a very, very conservative count right now.
Well, and especially it starts to include places like Jenin and the West Bank and
exactly
all that stuff.
As noted in the first newsletter of this year, a December 2024 report conducted by the Community Training Center for Crisis Management in Gaza found that 96% of the children in Gaza felt that death was imminent. A preliminary assessment suggests that rebuilding Gaza will cost $80 billion. Again, I feel that's a low ball estimate, but the UN Development Program has signed an agreement with the Universitat Luval de Valencia to design a new Gaza that proposes first building a city nucleus for 50,000 people amidst the rubble and then building outwards. There are at least 50 million tons of rubble in Gaza from the destruction of more than 2/3 of the area's infrastructure, including 92% of housing units, which will take years to clear. In the ruins, alongside the bodies of missing Palestinians, are unexploded munitions and toxic materials. It is not possible to just line up a row of bulldozers and drive from one end of the Gaza Strip to the other. So, funny enough, I heard Secretary Marco Rubio kind of mentioned this because I think like Trump basically said today, oh, we need to basically Palestinians, whoever is there, need to get out. And it seems like due to the backlash that they had to dial that back, and basically Rubio said, oh, well, we have to have it clear out because we need to clean up the place, and make sure that it's safe. But giving the impression that, oh, it's for Palestinians, when it's not. It's for the Israelis who want to move in after that. So just kind of like, like that slide tactic of being like, oh no, we seemingly care about the Palestinians and they need to get out because as there's like bombs there that are not detonated and like it's not safe. So they need to evacuate so that we're able to clean up the mess with the illusion, and he didn't say this, but the implication was there that the Palestinians will come back to, but again, given what they were saying, I think from what I've read, as I said before, I think it will take about 80 years for them to kind of bring it back, the Gaza Strip, to like pre-genocide conditions. So most of the people that are living there now will never see a rebuilt Gaza. So I would imagine everyone living right now will not live to see it. So
I don't know. BlackRock works real quick, Collin. That's all I'm saying.
Well.
So. Ugh.
Well.
No, I feel you, dude.
Palestinian institutions simply do not have the money to rebuild Gaza. The Gulf Arab states, which do have the money, will certainly try to wrest unforgivable political concessions from the Palestinian political factions in exchange for any aid. Again, as I said, this is where the idea of reparations comes in. So, but no one's talking about that, at least for Palestine. The countries that want to make Israel pay for the devastation it has wrought on the Palestinians do not have the political leverage to do so, nor that can hope to push the countries that armed Israel, such as the US, the UK, and Germany, to pay for the damage done with their munitions. I would argue they have plenty of leverage if they had the will to do it. They just don't want to because of the Israeli lobby. So that's where I think Vijay should have said that here. The perpetrators of the genocide want to convert Gaza into their real estate playground. U.S. President Donald Trump says Gaza is a phenomenal location that currently looks like a massive demolition site, echoing his son-in-law Jared Kushner's assessment in February 2024 that Gaza's waterfront property could be valuable, which we mentioned earlier. This is where that article that Wilkins kind of came in terms of he at least believed that it was kind of like a suggestion when actually it's no reality. Like this is what has been talked about. This is what we've kind of reported on, not just in Gaza, but also in the West Bank as well. So, and again, I think Trump kind of reiterated this today, or at least yesterday, that, like thinking like the real estate mogul that he is, it's a gold mine for real estate.
Yeah.
Gaza Strip. So, last year, Netanyahu said that the northern part of Gaza, including Gaza City, will remain a ruin and be annexed, while Israel will control the rest of Gaza and build settlements along its edges. The settler movement, which is hell-bent on ethnically cleansing the Palestinians, a part of Netanyahu's base, is prepared to seize the wheat trench and build their own settlements there. The pressure on Palestinians to leave Gaza will remain intense despite this momentary ceasefire. Palestinians who have lost at least 11 and a half years of their lives as a result of this horror will take what they can get now, even this threadbare ceasefire. But they deserve much more, and they will continue their struggle to get it. That is why on January 27th, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians sheltering across Gaza began marching northward to their homes. They will not live through another Nakba catastrophe. They will rebuild with their fingers in the dirt if necessary. So actually, this kind of references to what I talked about last week. Because even I kind of mentioned, like, I understand why, but almost what's the point? Like, I give credit to Vijay for kind of saying it in this terms, because they don't want what happened in 1948 for them to essentially to be displaced to happen again. Like I guess, and I think I said this maybe last week, I feel like they would rather die at home rather than live somewhere else and see their home essentially being taken away from them. So it's like, I think it's essentially kind of their last stand, essentially, is really what to me this implicates, them moving back, even though they do not have the resources really to rebuild right now. But essentially, like, I feel like they are aware that this is essentially their graves.
Yeah.
If they do go back. But I think that's the choice that they're willing to take at this point, knowing their history. So on that context, I can understand why they would want to go home. But whereas I think even last week I kind of was like, it didn't seem to mesh well with me, but given this context, it makes a lot of sense.
It seemed very somber to me watching them march back to where they might not exist anymore. Yeah.
Right.
So
not might, I'll say a high probability.
Yeah, especially now.
At this point. So yeah. Any other thoughts?
No, I mean, I do want to, and we'll talk about this in our last segment too. Don't pin the blame on any figurehead, political or otherwise here, Like, yes, Biden was complicit. Yes, Trump was complicit, but they're only at the bidding of their masters who have had this plan in place for literal decades now. So, which we've talked about ad nauseum. So try to keep that in mind as well, but otherwise, looks bleak. So,
Right. Meanwhile, I do want to say this. I'm not going to give it to you. I'm just going to reference it. So there
yeah.
was a report. So I just was kind of, you know me and kind of how my brain works. So it's kind of like, well, to give context, especially coming off of COVID, well, what's the life expectancy here, like in the US? So I'm just going to read it off. I'm not going to post it. I might post it in the description maybe later for guys if they want to read it. But this is from Pearson KFF. This might be Kaiser, but it's taken from healthsystemtracker.org. So according to the article, it says between 2019 and 2022, the US experienced a sharp decline and a slower rebound in life expectancy than peer countries on average due to increased mortality and premature death rates in the US from COVID. Updated life expectancy estimates in the chart collection shows that in 2023, life expectancy in the US returned to pre-pandemic levels, but remains lower than that of comparable countries, which makes sense given that our healthcare is shit. But life expectancy at birth in the US increased 0.9 years from 2022 to 78.4 in 2023. In comparable countries, life expectancy was 82.5, which is on average 4.1 years longer than the US, reflecting a persistently wide difference in life expectancy between the US and comparable countries. So, given COVID that we just a little more removed from now, we basically bounced back to our life expectancy. So our average expectancy is 78 versus if you go to that chart again.
Yep. I going. Hold on. I going. Yep.
So in Palestine, their life expectancy now did a massive drop to 65.2. So even I'm sure this drop is related to COVID as well for them. But you see how it kind of bounced back too for them up until just before 2022. I guess that's where it is. And then from there, that drop. So to all your friends, liberal friends who are talking about, well, Trump is doing ethnic cleansing, you can show them this chart.
Yeah.
And just tell them, well, Trump is just finishing the job that the foreign administration started, with the idea that life expectancy drop so drastic post-COVID, I would argue, is shameful. And, so just to give some perspective on how we were able to kind of bounce back, but the Palestinians haven't because they've been going through this assault really, you can argue since 1948, but especially within the last really 3 years, not even 1. So, and again, who was president during this time? But they're going to say that. But you're going to say Trump is ethnically cleansing people, though. So,
yeah.
President Trump incited an erection.
Yes, that is the correct, sir. Yeah, no, it's rough for sure. These numbers don't make us happy. But anyway, talking about it is certainly why we're demonetized. So you can go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, scan that QR code on your screen, or as always, it's in the description. Give us a little dollary due, help keep the lights on over here. Independent media is at, pretty much a vow to poverty at this point. So any little bit helps. But if you can't give monetarily, we get it. Like and subscribe, share this stream, share the video, and let us know what you think. How bad do these numbers actually look? But anyway, thanks for watching.